Welcome to your favorite Makoti podcast, Makoti Unveiled. I'm your host, the resident Makoti, Siya Teu. Now, thank you so much for joining us for this episode, and it's another episode on epic conversations that we have here on Makoti Unveiled. Today, we're talking about something saucy, something a little naughty. But we're naughty, but we're nice, right? Okay. So today we're talking about sex. Yes, you heard me right. SEX, sex. But to make things a little bit more interesting, we're going to throw children into the mix. And you know, when people get married, you'll hear some, because of religious reasons, they'll say that they're getting married so that they can have legal sex, from whatever religious part of the world they come from. They get married so that they can have legal sex. There's those people. But then there are the people that think that because they married, they get to have lots of sex, unlimited sex, sex every day and twice on Sunday. What's that? Lots and lots of sex because you married. But today, to talk to us about sex, we are joined by a professional sex coach. That's right, we're joined by Nikki Brivik of Ask Nikki, and she'll be talking to us about all things sex. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Sia. So lovely to be on your show. I was so looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to this talking about sex, my favorite topic.
Yes. Just a disclaimer, ladies and gentlemen, Nikki is joining us from a studio in Cape Town, so she's not with us here in Johannesburg. Okay, now that the technical stuff is done, out the way, let's handle the real stuff. Nikki, today's topic is quite broad, right? So can we start? Maybe let's start here. Is there a specific number of times that people in a healthy relationship should be having sex?
So thanks, Sia. It's such an interesting question because I often get this question. People wonder, what is the mythical perfect amount of time to be having sex? So the answer is it actually is up to each couple and how important it is for you. But research has shown that the actual ideal number is at least once a week. So that doesn't mean that if you're having sex every day, you must stop having sex every day, because that might not work for everybody. But it does mean that it's important to keep that erotic thread, that sexual connection in a relationship. Because when it's less than once a week, people start to kind of divide and it becomes more difficult. And, sex it's kind of like it has its own planet and its own atmosphere, and more sex requires more sex and begets more sex. So the more sex you have, the more sex you want to have. So if you're having sex less than once a week, it might become less than twice every second week, and then once every month, and then once every 6 months. And then people kind of just lose each other. So the point is, at least have sex once a week. But if you want to have more, great. And the more you have, the more you're going to want.
Sex begets sex. Makoti Unveiled would always teach you a thing or two. Now, colloquially, they're called rounds. I don't know if there's a proper way to call them, so please educate us. How many times? So you're having sex. It's Wednesday night. How many times should you be having sex?
Okay, so Sia, thank you so much for bringing this up, because this is where I find that there is so much misunderstanding and misconceptions about sex. Because when people talk about sex, they are talking generally about penetration. And the problem with that is that most women, that means at least 80% of women, do not orgasm from penetration alone. That is quite a number. The majority of women require clitoral stimulation. And in fact, so much so that you either require just clitoral stimulation or clitoral stimulation with penetration. And in fact, 96% of us require some kind of clitoral stimulation. And unfortunately, a lot of men and even women do not understand this. And it is essential, because what happens is, if we masturbate, when women masturbate, we can orgasm. It's not elusive. The female orgasm is not elusive, but we think that it is. Why? Because culture and even society, since we've been born, we are not taught that our clitorises are essential for us to be able to enjoy and receive pleasure. And so what happens is we get into a part, when we masturbate, we rub our clitorises. Less than 1% of women put something inside them when they masturbate. Every woman touches her clitoris. But we get into a partnered relationship, and then we think that we must be able to have orgasms without this clitoral stimulation. And that's the problem. And the problem with that is that, so we should be teaching our daughters and our friends, we should be talking about our clitoris. And sex should not be penetration. Sex should be the whole act, the foreplay. Foreplay is essential. It's fair play. And the outer course is essential. And remember, we take longer to be warmed up. So in fact, you shouldn't even start with penetration. A woman needs to be warmed up to sex. And how do you do that? You go for her clitoris. And the clitoris, the clitoris needs to be warmed up. You don't start with the clitoris. The clitoris can be very, very sensitive. And each clitoris has its own personality. So you need to take the time to learn your partner's clitoris. See it as a way of exploring and finding exciting places on her body to get out what she likes. And we women must stop faking orgasms, because the problem with faking an orgasm is we are telling men what we want them to hear, which is something that isn't actually turning us on. And then guess what? We get surprised when they keep going for the same thing. And you know, this whole focus on penetration is actually detrimental for men as well, because men are so busy focusing on thrusting harder and lasting longer that they can't even enjoy their own pleasure. Instead of just going with the flow, spending time warming up the woman, playing with her clitoris, getting her so aroused so that when he actually enters her, then he can enjoy that engorgement that he has got from spending the time engorging her. So, and not only that, it makes men feel uncomfortable about their dick size. If you want to know what is real male prowess, is your ability to use your fingers, your tongue, and the ability to hold a vibrator. Because that is real prowess in the bedroom. Because in honest truth, women don't generally care about the size of a man's cock. Let's face it, that's not what is going to get us off. What gets us off is how much time you spend warming us up, playing with our clitoris, getting us to beg and plead for more. Remember, we actually have a superpower. Our clitoris is the only body part that is there purely for pleasure. So if you are not stimulating it, you're not doing what God has given us to use to actually experience pleasure. And remember, women have a superpower. We can have multiples. We don't need a refractory period. We can have many. So a man can slip in and slip out. If he first gives us an orgasm with our clitoris, maybe he can give us an orgasm sucking on our nipples. Maybe then he can penetrate us, only then, and we can have another orgasm through penetration. And this here is going to blow your mind. What a lot of people don't know is that the clitoris is not just that little nub on the top of your vulva. The clitoris actually, that's just the tip of the clitoral iceberg. So the way the clitoris looks, and I don't know, Sia, if you've ever seen a clitoris, but it looks kind of like a fishbone. And what you see is only such a little bit, because it actually goes down, round, and behind the lips of the labia, and they have bulbs. And those bulbs swell. And the more aroused we are, the more engorged we are, the more swollen we get, the more delicious everything feels. And that's when it's easier for us to have a penetrative orgasm, because people actually think that it's just the swelling of the clitoris inside that makes us tighter and better and feel nicer. And that allows us to be able to have an internal orgasm, because the back of the G-spot is actually the back of the clitoris. So if you want to find your partner's G-spot, stimulate her clitoris first. And then when you say to me, so back to your questions here, how many rounds? Well, rounds, sex should be an exploration. It is not a linear thing. It's a circular thing. Enjoy spending time looking at each other's body, sexploring. See yourself as a sexplorer, because remember, women's bodies are a mystery even to ourselves. And the thing is that we change according to where we are in the menstrual cycle, where we are about how stressed we are, where we are in our arousal arc. So that's why sometimes, you know how something can feel amazing, and then the next day your partner does it, like sucks on your nipples, and you're like, oh, don't do it. They don't understand that we've just changed. Maybe we're not as aroused. Maybe you need to get us more aroused. Maybe we're at the wrong time, or it just takes a bit of learning, listening to your partner, seeing what they like. Listen to her breath. Watch the flush on her skin. See how engorged her pussy is. So take the time to recognize what is turning her on, and most importantly, communicate. Sexual communication is the number one important thing to have a great sex life. And I know it can be difficult because people feel so uncomfortable talking about sex. But if you can communicate and speak openly and comfortably, you have to be very cautious about how you communicate, because we're all so sensitive about it, right? So, first of all, when you are in the bedroom, it is not a good time to criticize. But having said that, that criticism must come out of the bedroom. So there's a Dr. Emily, and she always says that there are three things: timing, tone, and turf. So choose your timing. If it's going to be a criticism, I always say, when you want to talk about something new, or you want to try something new, or you want to criticize, do it outside the bedroom. Because bringing it into the bedroom can often ruin the mood, can take away that beautiful afterglow, can upset people because we've been vulnerable, and now we kind of have opened ourselves up, and now we feel shut down. So don't criticize in the bedroom. But what you can, and then when you're outside the bedroom, be careful about how you do it. So for example, you can say, oh, that was so hot last night. I loved it when you went down on me and when you did that thing with your tongue. But maybe next time, can you go a little bit softer, because I sometimes get so sensitive, but it was great, and please do it again. So do it something like that. And then you could also say, what about you? How can I change? Sometimes I feel, do I use my teeth? What should I do that can make it feel better for you? Because we both want to improve. So that's kind of a way of doing it outside. But in the bedroom, there I think you have to, moaning and sighing is a great way of telling someone what you like. Because let's be honest, oh my God is a lot better than silence. So moan and sigh and show them and tell them what feels good. Actually show them, put your hand over. Maybe move your hand if they're kind of too high. Move their hand a bit lower. If you go quiet, maybe they'll know that actually they don't like it. Or tell them, because a lot of women go quiet just before they approach orgasm. So then say, if I go very quiet, know that it's a good thing. Or moan and sigh, as I say, because it's an interesting thing. There's a mind-body phenomenon called embodiment, that if you it's kind of a fake it till you make it. If you tell your body that this is unbelievable and I'm really enjoying it, then you actually find that it is unbelievable and you're enjoying it. So moan and sigh, and it also turns your partner on. And also mutual masturbation. That is a great way of teaching your partner how you like to be touched. And it's a great way of watching them, and it's so sexy. If you are facing each other and you say, let's tonight, we have to both get ourselves off before we're allowed to touch. You know, the important thing is inject novelty, see it as fun. People have taken the fun out of the bedroom. And remember, sex is the way that adults play. It should be recreational. So bring in novelty, adventure, excitement. Don't be so sensitive about, if you were cooking and your partner said, can I have some salt? You're not going to get upset. Or if your partner says, tonight I feel like Mexican, and you say, I prefer Italian. Well, fine. We are allowed to have freedom and bring that into the bedroom. Because remember, closeness is not sexy. Closeness is love. It's tracksuit pants. It's comfortable. Sexy requires a little bit of distance. Look at you, how beautiful you look today. Now, if you were wearing your tracksuit, not as hot. So put this on for your partner. Take it off slowly. Maybe keep your shoes on. Have a little bit of fun with it.
Hi, Nikki is giving, as Nikki is doing the Lord's work today. She is doing the Lord's work. But now I want to put a spanner in the works, Nikki. Enter children into the conversation. Now people have kids. People hear people with kids saying that because they have kids, they don't have time to have sex, they're too busy to have sex, the kids are interrupting them or whatever. How would you suggest that people with children can remedy this?
That's a great question, because obviously this is something so many people struggle with. And I think the thing is that if intimacy and passion is important to your relationship and keeping connected, and let's face it, people who have great sex, they often are able to overlook their partners. It keeps your glasses rose tinted, let's face it, because you're able to overlook all those things about your partner. So if you value sex and intimacy, then you need to prioritize it. And even when kids come, say, I am prioritizing this part of our life. And it's a great model for your children. It's an investment in your children's happiness, because children feel absolutely secure and loved when their parents love each other. So you might be tired, you might not feel like it, but the reality is you don't always want to make your kids' lunchbox. You don't always want to drive them to that extramural, but you do it. Exactly. So how hard is it to say, I am going to invest in this for me and my partner, because I want my kids to know what it's like to grow up in a loving home where intimacy and sex matters. And you can add those little rituals into your life. So you know how with kids you follow your day and you follow those rituals. You can add that into your relationship. So you see what's comfortable for you. Is it a kiss goodbye? Because remember, it's important to keep a little erotic thread between you and your partner. So do you always kiss each other goodbye or hello when you come into the house? Do you sleep naked? Shower together? Hold each other's hands? Kiss? When last did you kiss your partner? And I'm talking proper make-out hot kissing. That often goes in long-term relationships. And kissing is sexy. And guess what? It's more likely to give you an orgasm for women if you actually have more kissing. So I think the thing is, if it's your priority, you make sure it's your priority. But there is one aspect that I just wanted to tell you about, and that is something that people don't understand, and that features with kids, is that some people have something called responsive desire, or as opposed to spontaneous desire. So spontaneous desire is something when you feel hot immediately. You know, you see something sexy. It's kind of what you see in the movies. You know how they see each other from across the crowded room and there's an orgasm in 1 second. But in reality, that is not the way it works. Or it certainly doesn't work a lot for women. So I always say that a man, and I'm not always like this, but let's say we put it on gender lines, that a man is more like a frying pan and a woman is more like an oven. And particularly in long-term relationships, that responsive desire builds up, even with men, so that there isn't that spontaneous desire. You have to work to get it there. So how can you work to get it there? So that's what I'm saying. Something like date night is so important because it reminds you what you fell in love with your partner. It's those little things that anchor you to each other, like sleeping naked. Guess what? Things come up more often if you're sleeping naked. Shower together. Guess what? Things come between you if you're showering together. You remember why you fell in love with that person in the first place. Do different things. See each other from across the crowded room without actually talking to each other, and remind yourself why you fell in love with that person in the first place. So I think it all goes back to be kind to yourself. Yes, sometimes you're going to be tired. Yes, sometimes you feel exhausted. The kids have taken up all your time, but make time. And I would suggest put it in, whether it's breakfast. It doesn't always have to be at night. It can be at lunch, but make a time every week or every 2 weeks or whatever works for you that can allow you to connect. And because remember, there are a lot of people who need to connect to have sex. So there are some people who have sex to connect, and I'm sure some of you can resonate with that. But if you're someone who needs to connect to have sex, and often a mom is too busy being a mom, she needs to be reminded that she's actually a sexual person. So she needs to remember, so sometimes that connection with her partner, just allowing, he can come home and say, guess what, darling, tonight's date night, you go, have a bath, get yourself ready, because we're getting hot and heavy, and I will put the kids down. So it gives the responsive desire person a little bit of time to warm up to what is coming. And you can get into your head, because remember that the sex, the brain is our biggest sex organ. And foreplay should begin after the last orgasm. So it's not about what just happens in that room. It's about, hey, darling, can't wait for date night. Guess what? The kids are going to my mom next week. Let's sending you a bit of underwear, giving you a tap on your ass if that turns you on, buying you a toy, letting you know I'll do the dishes. I know you're tired. Let me put the kids to bed. It doesn't, for women, a lot of the time, it's acts of service, giving them a bit of a break from being a mom. That can be the hottest turn on. You know, what I might find so sexy for you, it's just kind of having no chores to do. And now you can be you. So I think that can be foreplay, remember? But you can't expect to kind of be a mom all day. Then your partner comes home from work and boom, you've got to be ready to go. No, it doesn't work like that. We are like ovens as opposed to a frying pan. Or even think of a pot of hot water. If you are boiling water, it doesn't matter how much you turn that up, it still needs to warm up. How can you warm up that water? You can't expect it to be boiling straight away. You need to warm it up.
So, Nikki, as we wrap it up, can you please just help all the many South Africans that are watching today's show that tell you, but the kids have homework, but I've got work, I've got this, I've got a presentation, I've got this to do. There's always so many things that people have to get done. So, what tips do you have? 2 or 3 tips that parents can have to keep the spark and the vavavoom in their relationship?
Okay, so yes, we're all busy. But let's not lie. It's important, and it doesn't require hours and hours of time to connect sexually. So if you eke out time for you and your partner, it's okay to tell your kids that this is mommy and daddy time. So make it on a weekly thing or monthly thing that they know it's date night. Or say to them, but mommy and daddy are going to have private time. You guys can watch a movie. Or the thing is that we mustn't be precious about saying that mom and dad need their time together. Yeah, so and another thing is music. Play music loudly when you have sex if you want to avoid noises if you're in a busy house. And it also helps you get into your body. It helps you to stay present. It allows you to kind of go with the flow. And people often forget that music is such a great way to allow us to transcend ourselves. So if you're worried about sound, play music and lock the door. It's okay for kids not to be able to get in. Just have boundaries. Say, it's our time. Make it a priority. You will thank me for it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how we wrap up today's episode. Nikki, thank you so much for your time and for your insights. If you want to hear more from Nikki, visit her Instagram page at ask.Nikki. That's where you'll catch her. And thank you again to you for joining us. And Makoti, don't say we don't hook you up. Girl, you know we got you. Catch us next time on the next episode right here on SNL 24. And until next time, bye-bye, Standwa.